The sound cut through stone like nothing Azareth had ever heard before. He sat in the great hall of Cinder Peak, listening to his generals argue about mining rights in the Eastern Territories when the noise reached him, a cry high and broken and utterly wrong for this world of fire and rock. His advisors kept talking, their deep voices rumbling about ore deposits and territorial boundaries. None of them heard it, but Azareth was a dragon king, and his senses have been honed through 3 centuries of ruling the volcanic realm. He raised one massive claw in silence. Immediately, my king Green's his scarred lieutenant tilted his horn head. What troubles you? Azareth didn't answer. He stood, his golden scales catching the firelight that burned in channels along the walls. The cry came again, weaker this time. Something small, something dying. The council is dismissed, he said, but sire, we haven't finished discussing the dismissed. The dragons filed out, confused and muttering. Azareth waited until the hall emptied before following the sound. It led him through corridors carved from volcanic rock, past chambers filled with hoarded treasures, down to the outer perimeter where his territory met the wasteland beyond. The ship had crashed maybe an hour ago. Azareth had felt the impact through the mountain itself, had sent scouts to investigate what turned out to be a human colony vessel. The scouts reported no survivors, no salvage worth claiming, nothing of interest to dragons. They had been wrong. Smoke still rose from the broken hall. Azareth pushed through the twisted metal with ease, his massive form barely fitting through the corridors designed for much smaller beings. The emergency lights flickered, casting red shadows across walls marked with scorch patterns and blood. He found the crew compartment and understood immediately why his scouts had reported no survivors. There weren't any, not living ones anyway, except for the child. She sat in the corner, pressed against a bulkhead, her small body shaking with sobs. A human girl, maybe 5 years old, clutching a worn, stuffed rabbit, her parents laying nearby, their bodies already going cold. She looked up as Azareth approached, and her crying stopped, not from calm, but from pure terror. Azareth had seen that look before. Prey animals made that face when cornered by predators. That moment of absolute stillness before the final struggle. He should have left. Dragons didn't involve themselves in the affairs of other species. They certainly didn't rescue orphans from crash ships, but she was so small. The girl whimpered, trying to make herself smaller against the wall. Tears ran down her dirty face, leaving clean tracks through the soot. She couldn't run, couldn't fight, couldn't do anything but sit there and wait for whatever came next. Azareth lowered himself to the deck, making his body as small as possible, still enormous compared to her, but less threatening than his full height. He spoke in a human language, words he'd learned centuries ago, but rarely used. Little one, his voice rumbled like distant thunder. Are you hurt? She stared at him with wide eyes, brown eyes. He noticed the color of earth from her home world. I won't harm you, he continued. I am Azareth. I rule this mountain. Mama, the girl whispered. Her voice was so quiet he almost missed it. Want Mama? Azareth glanced at the bodies. The woman's hand was still outstretched toward the child, frozen in a final attempt to reach her daughter. Something twisted in his chest, an ache he hadn't felt in longer than he could remember. Your mother cannot come, he said gently, but you cannot stay here. This place is not safe. Don't want to. Go, fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. Want to stay with Mama and Papa. Azareth had ended wars. He had negotiated treaties between clans that had feuded for generations. He had stared down challengers twice his size, without flinching, but this tiny creature with her tears and her broken voice undid him completely. What is your name? He asked Lily. She hiccuped. I am Lily. Lily, he tested the word. That is a good name, a flower name from your world. Yes, she nodded, still clutching her rabbit. I have a home, Azareth said, slowly, not quite believing the words as he spoke them. A fortress in the mountain. It is warm and safe. You could stay there until we find your people. No. People. Lily's voice cracked. Ship was going to new home. Everyone was sleeping in the coal boxes except Mama and Papa. They were flying. Then everything shook, and Mama screamed. And then she couldn't finish the cryopods. Of course, the colony ship had been carrying hundreds of frozen colonists to some distant world. The crash had destroyed the pods, killed them all in their sleep. This child was the only survivor of an entire colony. Azareth extended one claw palm up across the deck between them. Come, little Lily, you cannot help them by staying, but you can live. Your parents would want that, I think. She looked at his claw, then at her parents, then at her rabbit. Her small hand reached out, trembling, and touched one of his scales. The contact sent warmth through his ancient bones. What hurt? She whispered. Well, what hurt, little one? When you eat me. Her voice was matter-of fact, resigned. Papa said dragons eat people. Azareth felt something close to shame. I will not eat you, Lily. I will protect you. This I swear on my hoard and my crown. She studied his face for a long moment, and Azareth realized she was deciding whether to trust him. 5-year-old human child, orphaned and terrified, was judging whether a dragon king was worthy of her faith. Finally, she stood. Her legs wobbled and she clutched her rabbit tighter. Okay, she said, but Mr. Hops comes too. Mr. Hops may certainly come. Azareth lowered his head until it nearly touched the deck. Climb onto my neck between my shoulder scales. Hold tight. Lily climbed with the surprising agility of young children, settling into the space behind his head. Her tiny hands gripped his scales, and her weight was so light he barely felt. It snorts. Azareth carried her out of the wreckage and into the night. Lily began to cry again, but she didn't let go, and somehow the Dragon King knew his life had just changed in ways he couldn't begin to understand. 3 days had passed since Azareth brought the human child to Cinder Peak, and he still had no idea what he was doing. Lily sat in the corner of what used to be a treasure vault, now hastily converted into something resembling living quarters. She hadn't spoken much since that first night. Mostly, she just held Mr. Hops and watched the dragons with those two serious brown eyes. Grindy stood beside Azer in the corridor outside, his scarred face twisted in concern. My king, she barely ate yesterday. The cook tried offering her 3 different meats, all rejected. She's not a dragon. Grannies, she cannot eat raw flesh. Then what can she eat? None of us know the first thing about feeding a human child. Azareth had spent the previous night reading through the colony ship's database, access through a salvage data pad. The information was overwhelming. Humans needed cooked food, specific temperatures, clean water without mineral content that dragons found Normal, they needed soft places too. Sleep, regular bathing, emotional support, education, social interaction, and about 100 other things the database insisted were essential for healthy development. The ship had emergency rations, Azorth said, protein bars and dried fruits. Bring those. We already did. She ate one bar and cried. Why did she cry? Grindy's looked uncomfortable. She said it tasted like what her mother packed for trips. Then she asked when her mother was coming back. The old warrior's voice dropped. I did not know what to tell her. Azorth closed his eyes. 3 centuries of life had not prepared him for this. I will speak with her. He entered the vault carefully, his massive bulk filling most of the space. Lily looked up from her corner. She had tear tracks on her face again, but she wasn't actively crying. Progress, perhaps. Hello, little Lily, he said, settling onto the stone floor. Grindy's tells me you're not eating. Well, not hungry. Her voice was small. The database says human children must eat regularly to stay healthy. Don't care. Azorth tilted his head, studying. Sorry. She was thinner than when he'd found her, dark circles under her eyes. You are sad, he said finally. This is normal after losing family. The database mentioned this too. Grief, it called it. What's grief? When you miss someone so much it hurts inside your chest. When food tastes wrong and sleep feels bad. And everything reminds you of them. Lily's lip trembled. You know about that doll? Azorth thought of his own mate. Dead 200 years now in a territorial dispute. It never fully goes away. Little one, but becomes easier to carry. Does it? She looks so hopeful of hurt. Yes, but you must keep living for it too. Ease, eating, sleeping, growing. Your parents would want that. How do you know what they wanted? Because they died trying to protect you. I saw your mother's hand reaching for you even at the end. That kind of love does not wish for the child to stop living. Lily was quiet for a long moment. Then what do dragons eat when they're sad? The question surprised him. We hunt, usually the act of catching prey. The chase and struggle, it helps clear the mind. Can I hunt? Azorth blinked. You are rather small for hunting, Lily. Then what can I do? I don't want to just sit here thinking about Mama and Papa all the time. It hurts too much. He considered this. Would you like to see more of the fortress? Perhaps meet some of the other dragons? She clutched Mr. Hops tighter. Are they nice like you? And grinned despite everything. Azorth felt his mouth curve, and what might have been a smile. You have given Grindy's a nickname. He said his name was too hard. Can I call you something shorter too? Azorth is a lot of sounds. You may call me whatever you wish. Lily thought about it seriously. Boss like Papa, but with your name. Something warm and unexpected bloomed in Azoroth's chest. That, yes. That would be acceptable. We pop. She stood up, still holding her rabbit. Can we go see the fortress now? The tour took most of the afternoon. Azorth kept Lily close, letting her ride on his shoulder while they walked the corridors. Dragons stopped and stared, whispered among themselves. A human child in Cinder Peak, the king himself acting as nursemaid. It was unprecedented, scandalous. Azorth ignored them all. Lily pointed at everything, asking questions in that endless way children had. Or the glowing channels in the walls. Lava flows for heat and light. Why were the ceilings so high? Dragons needed space to spread their wings indoors. What was that smell? Sulfur from the volcanic vents. Could she touch that shiny rock? No. That was part of someone's hoard, and touching another dragon's hoard without permission was a grave insult. In the kitchens they found a young dragon named Skyfare attempting to cook something in a metal pot. The result looked like charred sludge. What? Azer asked. Are you doing? Skyfare jumped, nearly knocking over the pot. My king, I was. The human database mentioned something called porridge. I thought the small one might eat it if we learned to make it properly. Lily peered over Azareth's shoulder at the pot. That's not porridge. That's just burned. I followed the instructions. Skyfare protested. Heat grain and water until soft. You're supposed to stir it, Lily said, and not burn it. Mama made porridge every cold day morning. You need milk too, and honey if you have it. We don't have milk, Granny said, appearing from the pantry, but we do have honey. Found some in the storage vaults, and water can substitute for milk, Skyfare added, already dumping the burned mess and starting fresh, the database said. So Lily climbed down from Azorth's shoulder, surprising everyone. She walked to the cooking station, still clutching Mr. Hops in one arm, and peered into the new pot. You have to watch it. Mama always said cooking was about paying attention. 3 dragons and 1 small girl spent the next hour figuring out how to make edible porridge. When it was finally done, Lily ate a full bowl, then asked for seconds. Azoreth watched her lick honey from her fingers, saw some color return to her cheeks, and felt that strange warmth in his chest grow stronger. That night, as he tucked her into the nest of blankets salvaged from the ship, Lily looked up at him with sleepy eyes. Pause. Yes, little one, thank you for not leaving me in the ship. You're welcome, Lily. Are you going to keep me or send me away when you find other humans? Asworth paused. He had not truly considered this question, had been too focused on keeping her alive day by day, but looking at her now, small and vulnerable, and trusting him completely, he knew the answer. I will keep you, he said, if you wish to stay. I wish. Her eyes were already closing. Night, Pop. Good night, Lily. As he left her room, Greens waited in the hall. The old warrior's expression was unreadable. The council is demanding an explanation, Gren said quietly. They say you'll soft that a king cannot rule while playing nursemaid to a mammal. Then the council may come speak to me directly about their concerns, Azorth replied, and they may explain to Lily why they think she should be abandoned to die alone. Grindy snorted, a small puff of smoke escaping his nostrils. For what it's worth, my king, I think you did the right thing. The little one has spirit. She will need it for what comes next. What comes next? Word has spread. Other clans know about the human child. Some are curious, others see weakness. Grindy's met his king's eyes. They will test you, Azorth. Soon, Azoreth looked back at Lily's door, heard her soft breathing from within. Let them come, he said softly. They will learn that protecting one small life does not make me weak. It makes me dangerous. 2 months after finding Lily, Azorth learned that humans had technology to track their lost ships. The revelation came in the form of 5 armed vessels appearing in Cinder Peak's orbit, broadcasting demands in 17 languages. Grindy's burst into the throne room where Azareth was teaching Lily to read Dragon Crypt. My king, we have visitors, human military. They detected the colony ship's distress beacon. Lily looked up from her tablet, eyes wide. Other humans? Yes, little one. Azareth kept his voice calm despite the tension coiling in his chest. They likely came looking for survivors. Should I? Lily hesitated. Should I go with them? The question struck Azareth harder than he expected. Legally, morally, he knew what the right answer was supposed to be. Return her to her people, let her grow up among her own kind. But the thought of this fortress, without her laughter, without her endless questions, without her small hand trustingly gripping his claw, felt unbearable. That, he said carefully, will be your choice, but first let us see what they want. The human commander introduced himself as Roy Hansen. Over the communication channel, he spoke politely but firmly, requesting permission to land and retrieve any human survivors. Azareth granted permission for a small shuttle, no weapons, landing rights in the outer courtyard only. Roy arrived with 3 others, all wearing some kind of protective armor. They clearly expected trouble. Their eyes widened when they saw dragons moving freely through the fortress corridors, and they gripped their holstered weapons nervously. Then they saw Lily. She sat on Azareth's shoulder, wearing a dress that Skyfer had somehow managed to sew from salvage fabric. Her hair was clean and braided, her face healthy, her eyes bright with curiosity. Mr. Hops was tucked under one arm. Sweet mercy, Roy breathed. She's alive and she's happy, Azareth replied. Yes, Lily has been well cared for. Roy's expression shifted from shock to confusion to something that might have been suspicion. You're telling me a dragon adopted a human child? I'm telling you I found an orphan child dying in wreckage and chose not to let her die alone. Papa saved me, Lily added helpfully when everyone else was gone. Papa, one of Roy's team, a woman with medic insignia, looked between Lily and Azareth with obvious disbelief. It is what she calls me, Azareth said. I have not discouraged it. Roy ran a hand over his face. Okay, this is look. I came here expecting to find bodies and wreckage. Instead, I find a human child calling a dragon king. Papa and you people are just, he gestured helplessly at Green, who was showing Lily's latest drawings to the other dragons. Snorts. We are caring for her, Azareth said, simply as any family would, but you're not her family. You're a different species entirely. She needs to be with humans, learning human culture, getting proper education. I can read, Lily interrupted. Papa teaches me every morning, and Grin teaches me history. And Skyfer is showing me how to identify minerals, and in dragon language. Roy looked pained. Kid, you need to learn human things too. Earth, history, math, science done the human way. Why? Lily tilted her head, genuinely curious. I like learning dragon things. Roy opened his mouth, closed it, then looked at Azareth with something approaching desperation. Help me out here. You must understand she needs connection to her own species. Azareth was quiet for a moment, watching Lily swing her legs contentedly from her perch on his shoulder. Commander Hansen, he said finally, may I ask you something honestly? Sure. Look at this child. Truly look at her. Does she seem neglected to you, unhappy, harmed in any way? Roy studied Lily carefully. She smiled at him, showing the gap where she'd lost a tooth last week. The medic had checked her thoroughly while the adults talked, had found her well fed, clean, no signs of abuse or distress. If anything, she seemed remarkably well adjusted for an orphan who'd lost everything. No, Roy admitted, she seems healthy. She has food, shelter, education, and protection. More importantly, she has dragons who care for her well-being, who have rearranged their entire fortress to accommodate one small human who sit up with her when she has nightmares about the crash. Azrith's voice softened. She has love, Commander. Is that not what matters most for a child? It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. You would take her from the only family she has left, because we are not the species you expected. Roy looked uncomfortable. Coalition has protocols. Orphaned human children are supposed to be placed with human families, given proper care. Supposed to be placed with families who want them, Lily said quietly. That's what the database said. Papa AZ wanted me. Do you want me? The question hung in the air like smoke. It's not about wanting, Roy said gently. It's about what's best for you. Living with people who love me is best, Lily said with the absolute certainty only children could manage. Loves me, Grin loves me. Skyfair makes me special food, even though cooking is hard for dragons. They're my family now. Roy looked at his team. The medic shrugged helplessly. Another team member, younger, whispered something that sounded like she has a point. Look, Roy said finally, I can't just leave a human child with dragons and file a report saying everything's fine. The coalition would have my head, but I also can't forcibly remove a kid from a home where she's clearly happy and loved. He thought for a moment, what if we compromise? I am listening. Azurith said, you let us send educators, human teachers who can come regularly, make sure Lily learns about Earth culture. Human history stays connected to her species. In exchange, she stays here with you. We document that she's safe and cared for, and the coalition gets proof that this arrangement is in her best interest. Lily perked up. I could learn both things, dragon stuff and human stuff. Exactly, Roy said. Best of both worlds. Azareth considered this. It meant regular human presence in Cinder Peak, something his advisors would hate. But it also meant Lily could could keep the family she'd found while still maintaining ties to her birth species. This is acceptable, he said, provided the educators respect our home and customs deal. Roy extended his hand, then seemed to realize Azarth couldn't exactly shake it. We'll set up a regular schedule, and he hesitated. Thank you for saving her. A lot of beings would have just walked away. I could not, Azareth said simply. She was crying over the following weeks. The arrangement took shape. A human teacher named Dr. Patricia Webb came twice a week, bringing lessons and materials. She was older, patient, and showed no fear of dragons. Lily thrived under the dual education, soaking up knowledge like a sponge, but not everyone was happy about the arrangement. News spread across the galaxy. A dragon king adopting a human orphan, cross-species families. Unprecedented cooperation. Diplomats saw opportunities. Scientists wanted to study the relationship. And in darker corners, other beings saw weakness. Victor Ree was one of those beings. Weapons dealer with connections to both humans and dragons. He saw the story not as heartwarming but as exploitable. He contacted Vriss, leader of the rival dragon clan that had been waiting for any sign that Azareth had gone soft. Child, Victor said over the secure channel, one small human child has made the mighty Azareth vulnerable. Think what you could accomplish if you threatened her. Volcris's laugh was like grinding stone. I've been thinking exactly that. and I believe it is time to test the Dragon King's resolve. Neither of them knew that Lily had grown far more observant in her months with dragons. Neither realized that she'd learned to read expressions across species to sense when adults were planning something they didn't want children to know about, and neither of them understood that threatening Azeroth's family would not reveal weakness, that it would reveal what a Dragon King was truly capable of when fighting for something more precious than gold. The attack came during Lily's reading lesson. She was curled up in Azeroth's treasure chamber, surrounded by ancient texts and glowing crystals. When the first explosion shook the mountain, books tumbled from shelves. Dust rained from the ceiling. Azeroth was on his feet immediately, scales bristling. "Stay here," he commanded. "Grindies protect her," but Grindies never made it to the chamber. The second explosion was closer, louder, and brought part of the east wall crashing down. Through the hole came dragons Lily had never seen before, bigger than Grennies, their scales dark as volcanic rock. Behind them, something that looked like human technology but moved wrong, firing bright plasma that cut through stone. "Found you," one of the dark dragons hissed, "the king's little pet." Lily scrambled backward, clutching Mr. Hops. Her mind raced through everything she'd learned about the fortress, every corridor she'd explored during her months here. Papa always said knowledge was survival. Time to prove it. She ran. The fortress erupted into chaos. Dragons fought dragons in the corridors, while human weapons fire added to the destruction. Lily dodged through passages too small for adult dragons, her size finally an advantage. She heard Azeroth roaring somewhere above, heard Grindies shouting orders, heard the screams of wounded dragons echoing off stone walls. She knew where to go. Healing wing, where Dr. Webb had shown her basic first aid during her last visit. If dragons were getting hurt, they'd need help, and if she couldn't fight, she could at least do something useful. The healing wing was chaos. Skyfire lay near the entrance, bleeding from a gash across his shoulder. Two other dragons Lily didn't know well were being tended by the fortress healers. And Grenny's dear old Grin, who had learned to make porridge and told her bedtime stories in dragon tongue, was collapsed against the far wall with burns across half his body. Grant Lily dropped beside him, Mr. Hops forgotten. On the floor, little one, Giaran eyes wheezed. His breathing sounded wrong. Wet and labored. You should not be here. Too dangerous. You're hurt. Lily's hands hovered over his injuries, remembering what Dr. Webb had taught her: pressure on wounds to slow bleeding. Keep the patient calm. Get help. I need bandages. Clean water. Where's the healer? Fighting. Grindies coughed, blood fleck his teeth. Everyone fights. Vriss brought too many used human weapons. We cannot defend against. You can't die, Lily said fiercely. She grabbed the nearest cloth, pressing it to his worst wound. Her small hands barely covered the injury, but she pushed down hard like Dr. Webb had shown her. You promised to teach me the names of all the stars. We only got through winter constellations. Lily, listen. Grindies caught her hand with his claw, gentle despite his pain. There is a communication device in the supply cabinet. You must contact Commander Hansen. Tell the dragons need help. Tell him Azeroth's fortress is under attack by human weapons, but you said everyone hates asking for help, that dragons are proud. Pride means nothing if you were dead. Go, little one, this is more important than an old warrior's wounds. Lily hesitated, torn between staying with Granny's and doing what he asked. Then another explosion rocked the fortress closer than before, and she made her choice. She grabbed the communication device from the cabinet, along with a proper medical kit, and ran to find a safe spot to make the call. The device crackled to life after 3 tries. Roy's face appeared worried and confused. Lily, what's wrong? You're only supposed to use this for emergencies. Papa Az's home is being attacked, Lily said, words tumbling over each other. Bad dragons and human weapons. Grin is hurt really bad, and Skyfear is bleeding, and I don't know where Papa is, and people are dying, and we need help. Please slow down, breathe. Who's attacking? Dragons from another clan. Their leader is called Vriss. They have human plasma weapons and shields. And it's not fair because Papa's dragons aren't ready for those. And she stopped as realization hit. Humans are attacking other humans. The weapons dealer guy gave them to the bad dragons. Roy's expression went from concerned to furious. Victor, that piece of okay. Okay, Lily, listen to me very carefully. I'm not technically authorized to intervene in dragon conflicts, but if human weapons are involved, that changes things. Where are you right now? Healing. Wing. Grin told me to call you then. I came back because he needs help and nobody else is here. You're treating wounded. Roy looked at someone off screen. She's 7 years old and treating wounded in a combat zone. Patricia, tell me you're hearing this. Dr. Webb's voice came from off screen. Already prepping medical supplies. Roy, if we're doing this, we need to move. Now, Lily, Roy said I'm bringing my ships to help, but it'll take time to get there. Can you stay safe until then? Find somewhere to hide. Lily looked at Granny, struggling to breathe despite the bandages she'd applied. She looked at Skyfear, trying to stand despite his wounds. She thought about Papa Az fighting somewhere in the fortress to protect everyone, to protect her. No, she said, I can't hide. These are my people, my family. I have to help them. You're a child. I'm the only one small enough to move through the damaged corridors. I'm the only one who knows hiding spots the attackers won't find. And I'm the only one who can tell you exactly where to send help when you get here, because I know every corner of this fortress. Her voice steadied. Mama used to say being small doesn't mean being useless. It means being useful in different ways. Roy was quiet for a moment. Your mother was a smart woman. All right, Lily, you're my eyes on the ground. Tell me what you see and I'll coordinate from orbit, but you promise me you'll be careful. I promise. Lily tucked the device in her pocket and grabbed the medical kit. I have to go help Ren now. He's really hurt. The next hour was the longest of Lily's life. She moved through the fortress like a ghost, too small for most combatants to notice. She found wounded dragons and applied basic first aid, staying hidden when enemies passed. She reported positions to Roy, helping him coordinate where his ships could provide support without hitting friendlies. She found Skyfear trying to protect a group of dragon hatchlings, the fortress's youngest residents. The young dragon was barely standing, blood matting his scales. Lily helped herd the babies into a storage vault she knew about, one with a door too heavy for hatchlings to open, that she could seal from inside. Stay quiet, she told the frightened hatchlings in dragon tongue. I'll come back for you when it's safe. Where's my mama? One tiny dragon whimpered. Your Mama is fighting to keep you safe, just like my papa is fighting to keep all of us safe. Lily hugged Mr. Hops tighter, then handed him to the smallest hatchling. Here, Mr. Hops keeps away nightmares. He'll protect you until I come back. She sealed the vault and kept moving. Somewhere above she heard Azareth's roar, louder and more terrible than she'd ever heard before. Something in that sound spoke of fury unleashed of a king who had been pushed too far. The building shook with the force of dragon combat, and Lily sent a silent prayer to whatever powers might listen. Keep Papa eyes safe, keep all them safe, please. Then she heard footsteps behind her. Heavy wrong. She turned to see one of Vriss's warrior, scales dark with malice, eyes locked on her small form. There you are, the dragon growled. The reason for all this fuss, Vriss will reward me well for your capture, little human. Lily ran. Lily knew these corridors better than anyone. She ducked through a maintenance shaft, squeezing into spaces no dragon could follow. Behind her, the dark warrior snarled in frustration, clawing at the entrance. But the shaft was dragon-proof by design, meant for repair work in spaces too tight for regular passage. She crawled through darkness, her breathing loud in the confined space. The device in her pocket crackled. Lily Roy's voice was strained. We're in orbit, making our approach now, but we're detecting heavy resistance. Where's Azareth? Don't know, Lily whispered. Someone's chasing me. Where are you? Maintenance shaft, Sector 3, heading toward the throne room. Good, that's good. Keep moving. We'll create a distraction. Lily emerged from the shaft. In a chaos, the throne room was a battlefield. Dragons fought in the air and on the ground, fire and plasma, weapons painting everything in orange and blue light. And there at the center of it all was Papa fighting a dragon, even larger than himself. Volcris, the rival clan leader, was massive, his scales the color of dead stone, his eyes burning with ancient hatred. He and Azeroth circled each other, both bleeding from multiple wounds. Your weakness will end you, Vriss taunted. All this for one small human. You have doomed your entire kingdom for a pet. She is not a pet. Azareth's voice was raw with fury. She is my daughter. They collided in a fury of claws and teeth. Lily watched in horror as Papa took a terrible wound to his side, blood streaming down his golden scales. But he didn't stop, didn't slow. He fought with the desperation of a father protecting his child. Then Roy's ships arrived. Human fighters screamed through the sky, targeting Victor's weapon emplacements with precision strikes. The plasma fire that had been devastating Azareth's forces suddenly went silent. Without their technological advantage, Volcris's warriors began to falter, but Vriss himself was still locked in combat with Azer, and he was winning. Lily had to do something. She couldn't fight, couldn't use weapons, couldn't match dragon strength, but she could think, and she knew this fortress. She ran to the lava channels that provided heat to the throne room, finding the control mechanism she'd seen Skyfar use once. The channels could be redirected, the flow controlled if you knew how. Her small hands worked the ancient levers, straining against resistance. Come on, she grunted. Come on, please work. The lever shifted, the channel redirected, and suddenly molten rock flowed directly beneath where Volcris stood. The heat intense enough to make even dragons uncomfortable. Vriss stumbled, distracted for just a moment by the burning beneath his feet. It was enough. Azareth struck his claws finding the soft scales. Beneath Volker's jaw, his weight driving the rival king to the ground. Yield, Azareth commanded, or die. Volker's eyes found Lily standing small and defiant beside the control mechanism. Understanding dawned. The child did. That the human child outmaneuvered me. She is smarter than you gave her credit. For Azareth said most beings are now. Yield, I yield, the words came out. Bitter but clear, your kingdom stands. The child has earned that much. Azareth released him, stepping back but keeping himself between Vularis and Lily. Take your warriors and go, tell the other clans what you learned here today, that Cinder Peak's king protects his own, no matter their species, and that attacking my family brings only defeat. Vriss stood, blood dripping from his wounds. His remaining warriors gathered around him, beaten and exhausted. As they retreated, he paused at the doorway. You have changed, Azareth, whether for better or worse time will tell, but you're no longer the king I knew. No, Azareth agreed, his eyes finding Lily. I am better when the enemies were gone, when Roy's forces had secured the perimeter and the healers were tending the wounded. Lily finally allowed herself to feel the terror she'd been pushing down. She walked across the throne room on shaking legs. Papa, oh, her voice was very small. Azareth turned, and despite his wounds, despite the blood and exhaustion, his expression softened. Lily, you are safe, are you? She could see the gash in his side, the burns across his wings, the way he favored his left fork. You're hurt really bad. I will heal. Dragons are resilient. You could have died. The words came out in a rush. You were fighting and you could have died, and I would have been alone again, and I can't lose another family. She was crying now, really crying, and Azareth lowered himself to the floor so she could reach him. She threw her arms around his neck, feeling the warmth of his scales, the steady beat of his heart. I'm sorry, she sobbed into his scales. This was my fault. They attacked because of me, because you saved me. Lily, look at me. Azareth waited until she lifted her tear-stained face. This was not your fault. Vriss attacked because he is ambitious and cruel. You did not cause that, do you understand? But if I wasn't here, if you were not here, this fortress would be colder, quieter, emptier. These past months with you have been the happiest of my very long life. You think I would trade that to avoid one battle, but you could have died. I could die tomorrow from any number of causes. That is the nature of existence. His voice gentled. But I will not spend my remaining years regretting the choice to save you, to love you, to call you daughter. That choice, little one, is the best I have ever made. Lily hugged him tighter. I love you too, Papa. Is it? They stayed like that until the healers finally pulled them apart, insisting Azar needed immediate medical attention. Dr. Webb arrived with Roy, both looking exhausted but relieved. 3 days, Patricia said, examining Azareth's wounds. With practiced efficiency, you need 3 days of bed rest minimum, and you, she turned to Lily, are the bravest 7-year-old I've ever met. The reports from the dragons you helped save are incredible. Grant, Lily asked urgently, is Grin okay? Gren is stable, Roy assured her, thanks to your first aid. Actually, the healer said you probably saved his life by stopping the bleeding when you did, and Skyfare and the hatchlings all safe. You did good, kid. Lily felt something loosen in her chest. They were safe. Her family was safe. over the following days as the fortress slowly repaired itself and wounded dragons healed something. Shifted in Cinder Peak, the other dragons, the ones who had whispered about Azeroth's weakness, saw what had really happened, saw a child who fought to save them, saw a king who nearly died protecting his people, saw humans and dragons working together to drive off common enemy. Grindy's recovering in the healing wing with Lily curled up beside him reading aloud from dragon histories. Spoke what many were thinking. The little one is clan, he announced to the other wounded warriors. She bleeds for us, she fights for us, that makes her family in the truest sense. No one disagreed. And when Azareth was well enough to stand before his council, again when they raised questions about the wisdom of keeping a human child in a dragon fortress, he had only one thing to say: Lily stays. This is not a request, it is a fact. Anyone who cannot accept that is free to leave my kingdom. No one left. 5 years passed like smoke on the wind. The girl who had once been a terrified 5-year-old clutching stuffed rabbit was now 12, tall for her age and confident in ways that came from being raised by dragons. Lily moved through Cinder Peak Fortress like she belonged there because she did. The fortress itself had changed around her, adapted to accommodate both species in ways that would have seemed impossible before. Human families lived in the converted Western Wing, refugees from colonies that had failed or been destroyed. Dragon hatchlings played with human children in the courtyards, learning each other's languages as naturally as breathing. The kitchens served both raw meat for dragons and cooked meals for humans. Dr. Webb had a permanent residence now, teaching mixed classes in biology and interspecies medicine, and Lily stood at the center of it all, a living bridge between worlds. Today she stood in the great hall beside Azeroth, translating a tense negotiation between a human mining corporation and a dragon clan that controlled mineral-rich asteroids. Her dragon tongue was flawless, her understanding of both cultures complete. She caught nuances that pure translation programs missed, cultural context that could mean the difference between alliance and conflict. The dragons are concerned about environmental impact, she explained to the human representatives. In their culture, scarring a celestial body without purpose is like graffiti on a sacred monument. If you can demonstrate the mining will actually improve the asteroid stability, they'll be more receptive. A human engineer blinked. We can do that. The extraction process actually redistributes stress fractures in beneficial ways. Lily turned to the dragon representative, switching languages seamlessly. Their method strengthens the stone structure while taking resources, like pruning a tree, to make it grow stronger. The dragon's expression shifted from suspicious to interested. This is acceptable if they prove their method works as claimed. 3 hours later, a deal was struck that satisfied both parties. As the representatives left, Roy, who had been observing from the side, shook his head in amazement. You just brokered a deal that's been stalled for 6 months, he said. You're 12, Lily shrugged. Gesture she'd picked up from human teachers but executed with dragon casualness. It's not hard when you understand both sides. Most conflicts are just miscommunication. Most 12-year-olds are worried about school tests and making friends. I worry about those too. I just also worry about Interspecies relations, she grinned. Want to see my math homework? It's about calculating orbital mechanics for Dragon. Flight in low-gravity environments, Roy laughed. You're something else, kid, I. No, she paused, her expression growing more serious. Roy, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you think I made the right choice, staying here instead of going back with you that first time, Roy? Consider the question carefully. He looked around the great hall at dragons and humans moving together in comfortable cooperation at the fortress that had become a model for cross-species integration throughout the galaxy. I think, he said slowly, that you became exactly who you were meant to be. Would you be the same person if you'd grown up in a human colony? No, Lily admitted. I'd be different, maybe more normal. Normal is overrated. Extraordinary, and more importantly, you're happy, aren't you? Lily thought about Papa Az, who still taught her to read every morning despite his kingly duties, about Grindy's, who had recovered from his wounds and insisted on training her in dragon history and philosophy, about Skyfear, who had become a master chef serving both species and still made her special birthday porridge every year, about the human children who were her friends and the dragon hatchlings who were her siblings in all but blood. Yeah, she said softly. I'm happy that night there was a ceremony, not for political purposes or diplomatic relations, but for family. Azareth had declared it so. And what the Dragon King declared came to pass, the great hall filled with dragons and humans alike. Lily wore a dress that combined human styling with dragon ceremonial elements, something Dr. Webb and Skyfear had designed together. In her hand she held a small box, inside which rested a single dragon, scale golden and gleaming. Azareth stood before his throne, majestic even after all these years. Age had added gray to his golden scales, and old battle scars marked his hide, but his eyes were bright as he looked at the girl he'd saved so long ago by dragon law and human custom. He announced, his voice carrying through the hall, I formally adopt Lily as my heir and daughter. She has proven herself in wisdom, courage, and compassion. She has bled for this clan, fought for this fortress, and built bridges where others saw only walls. Grindy stepped forward, carrying a cushion upon which rested a bracelet of woven dragon scales. The clan recognizes Lily as true family, bound not by blood but by choice. Indeed, Dr. Webb came next, representing the human families. The human community of Cinder Peak recognizes Lily as one of our own, a child of two worlds who honors both. Roy spoke from his position among the human observers. The Galactic Human Coalition recognizes this adoption as legal and binding, and recognizes Lily as having dual citizenship in both human and dragon territories. Lily approached Azarth, and he lowered his great head until they were eye to eye. She placed the golden scale shed naturally from his hide years ago and kept safe all this time into the bracelet. The symbol was complete. Dragon and human together. I accept, Lily said, her voice steady despite the tears on her cheeks. Papa, you saved me when I had nothing. You gave me a home, a family, a purpose. You taught me that family isn't about what species you are, it's about who you choose to love and who chooses to love you back. She fastened the bracelet around her wrist, the scales warm against her skin. I am Lily, daughter of Azareth, child of Cinderpack Bridge. between dragons and humans, and I'm proud to be exactly who I am. Azorith touched his claw gently to her cheek. Gesture of dragon affection she'd learned to cherish, and I am proud to call you mine, little one, though you're not so little anymore. The hall erupted in celebration, dragons and humans cheering together. Music played, food was served, and for one perfect night, the fortress that had once known only isolation became a beacon of what the galaxy could be when different beings chose connection over division. Later, much later, when the celebration had wound down and most had gone to bed, Lily found herself in her old room, the one that had been a treasure vault once. Mr. Hops sat on her bed, worn from years of love but still faithfully guarding her sleep. Azorith appeared in the doorway, too large to fully enter, but content to sit in the hall and talk with her as they had countless nights before. "Are you truly happy, Lily?" he asked. Quietly, no doubts, no regrets. Lily picked up Mr. Hops, remembering the terrified child she'd been, the one who had clutched this rabbit while her world burned. Then she looked at what she'd become, who she'd become, because one Dragon King had heard a child crying and decided that sound mattered more than tradition. "No regrets," she said. "You know what I think about sometimes, Papa." "What, little one?" "I think about all the things that had to go wrong for me to be here. The ship malfunctioned, the crash, everything that killed everyone else but left me alive, and I feel guilty because I'm happy now, and I shouldn't be happy that those terrible things happened. Grief and joy can exist together." Azorith said gently. "You can mourn what you lost while celebrating what you found. Your parents would not want you to spend your life sad because they are gone. They would want you to live, to love, to be loved. You honor their memory by being happy." "I hope so," Lily set Mr. Hops back on her pillow. "I hope they can see somehow that their daughter didn't just survive, she thrived." "I believe they can," Azorith said, "and I believe they are proud as I am proud, as I will always be proud. Love you, Papa." "Love you too, Lily. Now sleep. Tomorrow we have a meeting with the Galactic Council about expanding the integration program to other systems. Can't wait," Lily said, already yawning. "I've got so many ideas," as Azorith watched her drift to sleep, surrounded by dragon treasures and human books, by symbols of both her worlds woven together. He reflected on how one moment could change everything. One cry heard, one choice made, one child saved. The galaxy would never be the same, and that the Dragon King thought as he settled in to guard his daughter's sleep, as he had every night for 7 years, was exactly as it should.